Okay, to the undersecretaries here present, Undersecretary Manalo, Terado, Guevara, Dimagiba, and to our various guests from guest speakers from Stanford and from Uber, Airbnb, Amazon, Idea Space, Kickstart Ventures, and our various partners, PSIA, GDAP, CCAP, Plug and Play, Enterprise, and ADB, friends from government, the academe, tech enthusiasts, budding entrepreneurs. I'm told that there are more than 100 of you here today. Ladies and gentlemen, to our foreign guests, welcome to the monsoon season in the Philippines. Rain is supposed to be lucky anyway. As I look at this big, enthusiastic, and lively crowd, I am full of hope that some of the many young entrepreneurs gathered here today will produce the new technologies that make it to the global stage over the next 3 to 5 years. You could be a coder working on a borrowed tablet connected through free Wi-Fi, building the next killer app. Or you could be an engineer prototyping the great device using hand-me-down parts. Our conference for these next 2 days is for you. We even call this official startup event of APEC Philippines 2015 Slingshot MNL, to remind us of that great story of the little guy who used such a simple device to dispatch a gigantic challenge. I would just like to share with you a few observations. I was just came back from the U.S., and every time I go to the U.S., I try to drop by San Francisco and Silicon Valley. And every time I come out of there, I always get much more amazed. So I'd just like to share with you some observations about this tech industry. One, obviously, it's big. In fact, it's very big. And it's so big that definitely, at least in the United States, it seems to be sucking up investments from other areas, such as manufacturing. A lot of money is flowing to the tech companies. So in our recent trip, we visited many fund managers in New York and San Francisco. And we also visited some tech companies in Silicon Valley. And that's really the very strong impression that you get. It's very big, and it's becoming bigger. Second is, it seems like this will be here for the next decade or two, at least. It appears that we are just in the takeoff stage. That was my impression from the recent information that I've received. And part of the reason for this is really the internet and the information age has really reduced the cycle times in terms of availability of information and in terms of collaboration. So whether it be in thinking of a new product, or whether it be in basic research, or whether it be in applied research, the sharing of information has contributed greatly to advancements in a much shorter period of time. And it seems that this pace is accelerating. In fact, the amount of data that's being generated now by new technology, in particular the new apps, is so big that it's creating a new industry, which is the big data, right? Data analytics and so forth. So instead of abating, I think we will see a further acceleration of this industry. It has changed us profoundly. It's the change the way we live our lives, and it's going to be there for a while, and it's going to change our lives more in the near future. The third is, it's a great opportunity for everyone, even the small guys like us. And I say that because this is really the only industry where from small you can become very big overnight, literally overnight. And the barriers to entry are relatively low compared to the barriers of entry in traditional enterprises, such as manufacturing. So now, let's talk about APEC, and also because I'm from the Philippines, I'd like to discuss about the Philippines in particular. That the young population of countries in Asia and in the Philippines actually makes them well positioned for taking advantage of this global phenomenon. Now, I must say though, that in terms of the ecosystem, we are very far behind from what you will see in Silicon Valley, and in small pockets all over the world. But again, since the barriers to entry are quite low, I think it will be not too difficult to catch up, not to attain the same level where they are, but to at least have some limited success on certain fronts. Now, in the Philippines in particular, in recent years, I've observed that there's increasing momentum in this part of the space of this sector, in this particular sector. And you notice that because some of the big players now are getting involved, at least in terms of providing some angel funds or venture capital type of funding to such endeavors. And that's part of the ecosystem that we really need to create. But more than that, we do now have some ample supply of talent to be able to provide at least some serious development in this space. I talk, for example, about our IT BPM industry, about 1 million last year direct jobs from basically 5,000 15 years ago. And of that 1 million, about 80,000 are in software, in the software space. So, and many of these are actually aligned with international institutions. So they're getting basically global type of training and exposure. And that number is increasing. And that's a pool of talent that I think sometime in the future can be tapped. Of course, you have a lot more than 80,000, those who are not involved in the IT BPM sector or in their own, such as you guys. And since you're a young population, you're English speaking, you're app literate, you've been raised in these things, so basically you're the millennials, there is really so much opportunity that is in front of you that can be taken, that you can take advantage of over the next 3 to 5 years. Now, on the government's part, I have to admit that the government actually is lagging behind in its understanding and support for this sector. And that is one thing definitely that we would like to change going forward, because it seems that this sector has so much opportunity that it will be there for the next few decades to come, that it seems that we may have opportunities in that space because of all the reasons I've mentioned, that the government has to take a very serious look at how to support this particular sector or industry in terms of improving its policy on this, including maybe changing some of the laws that are required to be able to support this better, including providing more training, including helping set up more financing for this type of ventures, and so forth. So going forward, that's what at least I can tell you, is that we will look at this very carefully. We'll take a review, take stock of where we are and what we need to do to help support this industry going forward. But the future looks very bright. And I have no doubt that as I look at the many young people, I have 4 children myself, or millennials. So, and one of them, in fact, is a software engineer in New York for one of the big tech companies. And I can tell you that really the opportunity is there for the taking. So I'm quite confident that some of you, 3 to 5 years down the line, will be heading companies that would have valuation of several $100 million. Hopefully, we can have 1 or 2 that will exceed $1 billion in valuation. And that's what really I'm expecting, and that's what we want to work towards, is to get some of you to reach there. Because I think we need companies like that to make it in the global market, to create a spark that will ignite this in the entire industry and capture the imagination and the commitment of people to really go forward in a very big way. So with that, I wish you all good luck in your ventures, and we want to work with you very closely and come up with a new policy environment to support this industry. Good morning.
Thank you very much to the good Secretary Domingo. Dear Secretary, can you please join us here on stage for a photo opportunity?